All right. What's up, y'all? This is Armand Sadler, podcaster, journalist, Drake fan, music guy, playlist curator. I do all that shit. I've assembled the Avengers. Now, these are not the Drake Avengers. We're specifically here to talk about Views, the album, a very polarizing album in Drake's catalog, possibly the most polarizing album in his catalog. People love it. Stans love it. Some stans hate it. Some fans love it. Some fans hate it. Some haters love it, and some haters hate it. So we're here to kind of talk about all of that. So I want to just let the fellas introduce themselves one by one, briefly say what they do, drop their social media, and then we can get into the good talks. Start with you, Yaw.
What's going on? My name is Yaw Geez, rapper, poet, TV producer, voiceover artist. I'm Yaw Geez, YAWGEEZ Music. That's at Twitter and IG.
Name is Dev Smith, you know what I'm saying? IG, D Nick, D_Nick. I'm a creator, writer, you know what I'm saying, journalist, poet, all that shit. Just add me in there, man.
There we go. Next up.
All right. Wait, am I muted? Okay, I'm not. That's crazy. I'm Skip. My hashtag handle is Skip for BK on everything. I'm a comedian, actor, host. Also, I have my own website, bringing that back, Covalpa. So you can find me on Skip for BK, and Covalpa talks about sports, art, music, everything like that.
Cool. Last but not least, the God.
The God.
Yeah. What's going on, y'all? My name is Alex, but I really go by A. I'm from the Need to Know podcast. Y'all might know me as Screaming from the Joe Budden podcast. Podcaster, content creator, playlist curator. You call it. Love R&B music. Might take your girl. You know. Yeah.
There it is. Okay, so fellas, today is April 29th, 2020, 4-year anniversary of Views. Just to set the scene, Views, Drake advertised back in the summer of 2014. It was originally titled Views from the Six. Leading up to it, we didn't really know what was happening. Between that, he dropped, if you're reading this, it's too late, very aggressive mixtape. He really tapped into the villain side of himself. We know from there that led to Summer 15, the beef with Meek Mill, ghostwriting. And so and then What a Time to Be Alive with Future in the fall of 2015. And then we get Summer 16, which was his response to Meek. Well, no, it was another attack at Meek, and then Meek ended up responding back with his 4-pack. But basically, Drake's life had taken a turn. People were questioning his pen. People were questioning his credibility. There was just a lot of concern about what was really going on with Drake. So, Views comes out, and the lead singles are Controller, One Dance, Pop Style, and then Faithful was leaked. Then we get the album, and as I said, the album was very, very polarizing. The reactions were all over. So, fellas, do you guys remember your first initial thoughts when you heard that album?
For me, I do definitely. The first thing I remember was I hated the intro. I hated Keep the Family Close. I was like, what? This didn't make any sense to me as far as I think personally it's Drake's worst intro on any album he's had. If you just want to go, we can go back and check the records if you like. So I felt like the album actually should have started with 9. I think it should have started with that. I also remember like there were a lot of songs that I liked at first, and then I didn't like them on the second listen. And we can get into that a little later. But I remember like liking the album, and then I remember my group chat hating it. Everybody in the group chat hating it. Like a lot of lazy bars from Drake. People were saying a lot of the same type of cadence he's been using, which I understand. People get tired of people who, have used the same cadence. But if it's worked for them their whole career, you can't argue that they won't use it to sustain their career. You know what I mean? So, I remember liking it at first, and then not liking it as much as I did it when I first listened to it.
Whoever wants to go next, just jump in.
I remember hating the singles for the album. Now, let me explain that, right? Outside, One Dance, Controller, doing something. As a matter of fact, doing a lot of things. You get me? But going into the album now, you know, again, we've already got, if you're reading this, it's too late. We don't really know where Drake is going now, right? So with that, I'm sitting here, I'm like, all right. You know, he's got the big commercial singles. I don't know how to feel about that because, again, I'm a B-side type nigga. And again, not that Drake hasn't had these type of smash records going into an album, right? But again, we don't know the approach or tone of this album, and I got a bunch of dance records right here. I got a bunch of dance records. Of course, they're going to go off when we outside, but when it comes to like this, the music that I really, I guess, prefer, I don't know where we going. So initially, I didn't know how to feel. I'm gonna be honest.
I would agree with A in that I had to check some other intro tracks, by the way, for I don't think Keep the Family Close is his worst, but I feel like at the time I didn't understand the song because that song was suddenly talking about Nicki. Like, and at that time it was like that issue of do I trust you or not? So once I kind of like listened to it like years later when I understood, like looking back at it, I understood why he made that song. And I feel like that's what's important. I know some of you guys are musicians and, you know, content creators. There's always a method to the madness of whatever we do for whatever reason. We always choose our words correctly. We always choose like the songs correctly. And in his mind, he's like, this is someone that was on my team. That's someone that I trusted. And you're on the op side. Like imagine like your sister or your female best friend is dating the op. Now I don't know what this is about with you. And that's why to me, this album always felt convoluted. Like there are parts where there's some stretches of this album, I'm rocking with it. Like what y'all said, like I can start off, like 9 is one of my favorites starting like second songs, right? So you get up from 9, you go from the second song all the way to like Western Road Flow's Redemption. Oh my God, that's an amazing 4 or 5 stretches of songs. And Western Road Flow is my favorite song on that album. But then there's some stretches where it's like, I'm not really rocking with this album. Cause like sometimes but it's supposed to be like a summer to winter type transition, right? The middle when it comes to Controller One Dance is supposed to be the summer flow. Beginning's all cold and dark, and we're supposed to be getting warmer and warmer and warmer after transitioning. Then we get the One Dance and Controller, then we get back into the cold of the winter, because that's literally what Toronto goes through. So when we understand that Views is literally Views from the 6, Views is a Toronto album, boom, that's why it resonates with those people, that's what they live with. I didn't get it until I went to Toronto and listened to the album. So I stayed there for like, you know, a couple of days, and I was traveling with them, feeling like those different weather things. It's like, if an album means that I have to travel to a city to get it,
so be it.
That's okay, all right. But I was like, damn. But I felt when I first listened to it, I wasn't really rocking with the entire album. I rocked with phases of the album. And until I got to the city, that's when I was like, I appreciate it, but it's not my top 3.
Okay. For me, before I get into how I felt about it early on, Skip, I do want to address like a point that you said about the album being viewed from the 6. I never actually thought about it that way, so that's something for me to think about. So good looks pointing that out. But initially, just raw off the surface kind of thoughts, like I didn't like Keep the Family Close. It was an easy skip for me. But then pretty much everything else, literally pretty much everything else was really good to me. You had Controller, like you said, and One Dance, those are outside records, you know. You don't really bump those on the aux in the car, you know what I'm saying, sometimes. Maybe during that summer act, maybe. Right. It, like, you know, longevity. No, I don't really
I was definitely slapping Controller all summer, though. I ain't gonna sit here.
Right. Everybody was definitely that summer, but I don't think, like, in terms of longevity, nah. And then also hype. I think that song, that you could throw that one away from the whole album. I think that song just doesn't fit in there at all. But I mean, like, here's my thing, and this shouldn't surprise anyone. And I think that a lot of people, like, I think this is the wrong question. You know, what is your first reactions to Drake? Because pretty much everything Drake releases, like, you're gonna like some of it. Like, and the fact that we're sitting here talking about dislikes is we're nitpicking, because, I mean, if we like, you know, compared to any like projects that especially going today, you know, you can see how good of an artist he actually is. But, you know, to play devil's advocate and to see how I feel to nitpick out the album, I mean, like, I think that this album, for me personally, maybe this might be a hot take, I think that this album is the beginning of the end for Drake. Like, I think that this was his pinnacle. I think that he will not match that energy that he had in that stretch run. Like, when I think about that time, I don't just think about the album. I think about his beef with Meek Mill and how that transcended his career. That a lot of people really don't realize. Like, you know, he had Jay Leno, you know what I'm saying, had Meek Mill on there and had him on memes and all types of shit. And that really, like, shot him up to, like, higher heights, especially when his back was against the wall. And then you really saw his supporters really show out then. And who are Drake's supporters? Drake's supporters are, you know, mostly women.
Everybody.
I mean, everybody, but, like, we've never seen a rapper like this have, like, Drake. He's also really loved in the white community. And, like, you have other artists, like, so, for example, I'll give you an artist like 50 Cent, right? Like 50 Cent, like, I could point to a whole bunch of white dudes, like, you know, I love 50, man, or, you know, whatever the case is, but it's different with Drake. Like, they actually see themselves in Drake. They can really identify.
I totally agree. I was going to say that today. Totally agree.
See themselves in Drake. So, like, Drake had this whole entire army behind him, right? And, like, I just felt like that whole diss with Meek Mill, that's why he ran with it. A lot of people say, you know, I really feel like he ran with it. And almost every track he was, you know, he was bringing it up. He mentioned it. Like, I think he killed Meek with the back-to-back. But then, like, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't use that verbiage. I don't know if he ran with it, or is that maybe an insecurity was revealed of him. So he had to overcompensate. You know, like, I felt like, you know, the nigga killed him with the first 2 tracks. What did Meek really do? He said that 4 for 4. I mean, whatever, you know, and Meek is, like, my favorite artist. But if more than anything, just circling back to the question, kind of getting lost here, more than anything, that time and that album just reminds me, or basically brought to my point of view, I think that that was the beginning of the end for Drake. Almost like a Max Kellerman, Tom Brady ravine kind of thing. Like, I think that every project after is just like, it's just not by a crazy amount, you know what I mean? It's not like, yo, this is horrible or whatever, but it's just the quality, he's getting more pop. The beginning and the end for Drake, I think that was his pinnacle. Not necessarily his best album, but I think that's when his most popular. That's when Drake was at his highest.
Okay. So wait, quick question before, like, we go into something else, because I know More Life came right after Views, right? What did you think about More Life?
So More Life, like, he you know, he was killing me with this whole, it's a compilation and all that stuff. He wasn't really trying to call it an album. I thought that it was very feature heavy. Of course, you know, like you said, he was trying to give other people shine. I thought it was good. Like, I'm not gonna sit up here and, like, I think people look for you to say, yo, that was bad from Drake. And, like, that's really hard to do because he's a great artist. And I think more than anything, my thing with Drake, and I think that the public's issue with Drake more than not, is the things that he's able to do and things that he get away with and how it reflects in his music. Let me give you an example. So, like, okay, we know about the blackface thing, but that's super, you know, on his face kind of thing. But it's not so much that Drake's pen and what he writes, it's just his demeanor and his attitude. Like, okay, like, if we talk about, you know, the Caribbean accent thing, or you say, oh, well, Toronto has a huge Caribbean influence. Well, you know, I'm from Brooklyn. I know mad people in Flatbush that aren't Jamaican, and they don't walk around parading with Caribbean accents. Like,
it's different though, bro. You know that. You know it's different.
But it's different because it's encouraged for everybody. Not only that, but the mesh of people in Toronto, it's so mixy, bro. So like that's how they do. And I understand what you're saying about Brooklyn, because Brooklyn is heavily influenced with Caribbean culture. Just because, but people know their lane. Like a lot of African Americans won't be try like feverishly trying to speak patois. But
so, you see what I'm saying? But that's what I'm saying. We know our lane. My point is like, okay, even if you're around it, you grow up around it. Like, yo, honestly, and all, be it like Drake is half white, okay, and I think that it touches people the wrong way when he does certain things, because it just reminds us of what the white man does. Like they can just, yo, bro, you don't get it. Yo, you can't wear that Biggie shirt. You know what I'm saying? Kylie Jenner, whatever it was, you can't sell those. You just don't get certain things. And I think that like that was Drake a lot early on his career. Like he was very insecure. Like if you even listen to his music early on, he really didn't even say bitch a lot. You know, like that even like changed. Like he always referred to women as women and, you know, girls. And you know what I'm saying? Like he really manifested into this person. And I just like, I see again, like, I think the public and other people have seen just like, it just doesn't align with other people. Listen, what did Cat Williams say about Michael Jackson's thing? Like, yo, nobody says you're a rapist for 20 years. Like, it has to be some truth to it. Nobody calls you corny, awkward, weird for 2 years. Like, nobody does that. And like, a certain type of thing that people see in him.
But now I see what you're saying, bro.
It has nothing to do with music.
I see what you're saying though, but like when you say like when you go into like the whole Toronto thing, right? It's like it's kind of hard to tell a cat that's been raised in Toronto around mans them who are speaking like this, where it's not a weird thing to talk patois. Here's another thing: Toronto men, bro, like they're not like American men. Like you know how you got American, African American men here, then you got Africans, then you got your Haitians, then you got your Jamaicans. In Toronto, it's usually they're already Caribbean. You get what I'm saying, bro? Or they're already around it. So it's like, again, I say this all the time. It's not my responsibility of what you think of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not my responsibility to explain every single thing when in actuality, there might be a very good explanation for it. You get what I'm saying? But like, when you get inside his culture, it's kind of even hard to say something from all the way out here. Because honestly, I'm a fan. I don't even really know.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and like my man Skip was saying, he said he went to Toronto and experienced the album for himself. I mean, even me, I've never done that before in Toronto. It's a different vibe, definitely. And not only that, but like, we always give credit to artists for like showing us where they're from. Like when Kendrick puts out Good Kid, Mad City, we gave him credit for showing us exactly what LA is. You know what I'm saying? Like when Lupe put out Food and Liquor, that was a very Chicago soul-based album. He gave us a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? But like, so why do we criticize Drake for giving us Toronto? You know what I mean? Like,
the reason why it was kind of like what Dev was saying, because like that's why I said the fact that I had to be in the city to understand it. Because when you're in Toronto, it's like I've never been to London, but when people say why does he sound like he's trying to be from Toronto, like Caribbean, and why is he trying to sound like that? You got to understand there's a lot of people that go back and forth between Toronto and the UK, right? So like in that leak that happened, I think a month or two ago, leak 2020, right? When it came like that song called War, and you feel him have that kind of like UK grime thing. Yeah. Because in his camp is either he has like the Toronto Caribbean people or he's got those people in the UK. Because literally when Drake does like a flow, he's literally like a better version of the Game. And just listen to me for a second. The Game is like a Mega Man, right? He's like a Mega Man. Yeah.
You took my whole point for the night. I was going to say the exact same thing, sir. The exact same thing.
We're in the same wavelength. But that's it. And that's why when people get upset, it's like Kendrick's not going to do that. Cole's not going to do that because their styles of how they grew up is different. Like Cole grew up in fucking Fayetteville. He puts it on his whole heart, right? Kendrick is Compton. Drake gets the opportunity to go back and forth between Toronto and the States, and he gets to go international, right? So it's not like these guys haven't toured international, but it's different when you have friends that are international. So we grew up in our relative cities. We know hood niggas. We know educated black dudes. We know, but this nigga knows everybody. So that's why when he's looking at this, his appreciation for different art forms is different. So it's not like he's like stealing it. It's like, yo, dog, I see that style. I want to kind of like add it to my old thing. It's like, you know how Mega Man beats a person? I'm going to take this and I'm going to start using this tool in this thing. That's how it is. But people hate it. And so when I be looking at the Game, like the Game dead has me using the same flows of the people he be featured with. And it's like, how do you do that?
But also, whose responsibility is it to understand like the album tone or direction? Because I feel like that's a big misconception as us fans. We look at it so casually, where it's like we'll call a project mid because we don't understand it, or you know what I'm saying? Like, whose responsibility is that? I feel like we need
our art is very subjective. You know what I mean?
It's very subjective.
It's a shame, and you know what it also is? Like, it's subjective. So, you know, the artist takes criticism because they're very sensitive about their art. An artist
have like a direction,
very direction. So when people don't see the direction,
right,
it's like well, how could you not see what I'm trying to give you? You know what I mean? They feel insulted, and it's a back and forth with that. You know what I mean? So it's a very interesting kind of dichotomy. You know what I mean? Like,
so I think my question most is, so where do we draw the line? All right, if we say that's his culture, I've never been to Toronto, so I'll give you deference to that, and things that you might know that I don't. So, but where do we draw the line? Like, we see Drake, he dips and dabs in everything. We see him making Spanish music, Caribbean music, if it's, UK music for the UK. Like, maybe it's that we've never seen an artist that's comfortable enough to do these kind of things, because just tradition, like, if we're talking about, listen, traditionally in hip-hop, you just said J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar and stuff like that. I think in hip-hop, there are morals. And I think that Drake is allowed to get away with these kind of morals because he's not from where we're from.
Jay-Z.
And because he's not from where we're from, and he gets to get away with those, kind of testing these kind of morals, that really upsets people who are from where we're from.
But what are the morals though? Speak to some, yeah.
So
what's the morals? Because Jay-Z and Lil Wayne have genre blended their entire career. The bigger artists know how to transition to other genres and still make good music. The only time I get mad at Drake is when he transitions and this is trash. Stop it. That whole Patrick Ewing thing. You practiced that shot. You took that shot. You really? Yeah. Why did you take that shot? That's the only time I get upset.
All right. So boom. So we definitely know you have artists across time that test barriers, right? That's not what it is. So if I'm trying to think of when a Jay-Z or somebody tested a barrier, I don't know.
But see, even going back to Jay-Z, I feel like it's not fair, right? Because Jay-Z sort of had his own path into what worked, right? And again, if you don't find a way to transcend, you either don't become bigger than these artists that have done things, or you get left behind, right? So it's the whole conversation we even having on Drake is that he's able to have the confidence enough to, let me try this season. All right, let me try this season. I'm all about that shit.
I think some of it can be attributed to confidence and making the right move, but I also think that some of it is a force. You know what I mean? So, and I think that some of the things that are a force, like a Fab or a Jada, they would never get that opportunity to try because their fan bases and then just overall the community of hip hop would be fabulous. What the fuck are you doing?
He just did an Afrobeat record.
Fab has done a lot of different shit.
What we doing? We said it was cool.
And I don't like the record personally. I don't like that record personally, but he did it. He did do an Afrobeats record. You know what I mean?
Just did it. He just did one.
We've seen these kind of records, a record. He's done a record. Like Drake does these. I'm pretty sure he has fucking mixtapes of fucking Spanish records or somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Tucked away. He does these things, bro. He actually has these things. So I just think to a certain point, it's just a little culture vulture-ish. And listen, it's not just me. You don't believe me?
No, we're not saying that.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And my question to you is you're a Meek fan, right? And it's not to cut you off. I want you to finish your point. Remember that song he had with Nicki before they started beefing? What's that album doing?
All Eyes on You.
Yeah. It was a.
Ambitions All Eyes on You. But you talking about Dreams?
It was a Bone Thugs sample.
Dream something. What was the title of that album?
Dreams worth more than money.
Dreams worth more than money, right?
Really good album.
And I'm not used to. And if it wasn't for the beef, that album would have did so much better because that was one of his best albums. That was one of his best, most complete albums. But look, Dev, that is a gangster from Philly talking about how much he loves his girl. Do we remember Meek when Meek had the dirty cornrows when he was talking about I'm a boss, I'm a house party, he was fucking all these girls. I wasn't mad when he did something different because I was true to him, right? And that's what I'm saying. We're looking at it like we're applying the rules of the hood to Drake, but we have to remember that Drake but you said the morals, bro. You said the morals. That's a fact. You said the morals. And if we're going by the morals of what you had said, that's I'm using exactly what you said. I'm using exactly what you said.
Okay, finish.
Right? And I'm saying, going by those rules, I can't put someone in my rules that doesn't live like any of the five of us here, bro. Again, that's what I'm saying. When we travel the world, we see other cultures. This guy's totally international. He's in Canada. This is a Canadian dude. So the rules for them is different. That's why I was if he was here in the States, I'd feel away because it's you're not really like that. But when you in that city is an international city. I've been seeing so many interracial couples, how they're so fluid with how they talk to each other.
Mixy.
It doesn't make sense to me. Because in our cities, it's very segregated. Blacks with blacks, Spanish with Spanish, Asian with Asian, whites with whites. But when you're in Toronto where everyone's just dating each other, everyone's just doing this, like what
everybody,
the fuck is this?
Everybody's mixy. Everybody is mixy.
That's what I'm just saying. I understand what you're saying because you're like a truest to the art form, but it's kind of like kung fu. Like, how they pass it down like a generation, but they start twisting it. It's like, if you were old, it's like, why are you doing that move? It's like, yo, bro, that it works for my generation.
The only reason I don't like that particular example, I get what you're saying because you're right. But the only reason I would say not that example, because I feel like that's the traditional, like hood gangster raps record that they have to come out with. I mean, like, every hood gangster dude got that one record. Like, you go to 50, I'm saying, with him and Nate Dogg, it was 21 Questions when he needed that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or
but Meek had a couple of records.
Uptown Vibes. Dun, 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 dun.
Nah, Meek and Nicki had 2 records on that one album.
Facts. But that's fairly new though. That's like
but it's like he's taking like a different route, right? Like, this is not the same Meek I'm used to hearing. He doing dyke vibes.
That's very recent. Like, that's like, now we're moving into a time where it's becoming like, you see a whole bunch of artists doing.
But I could say, yo, Meek, you left Philly, came to New York. You've been uptown for a little bit, and now because you've been uptown for a month, this is what you making.
You was in Dykeman. You was down Dykeman.
He was in Dykeman.
You saw what the vibes was,
and he grabbed Fab because Fab loves going uptown. But that was a Meek record. I never thought that Meek was fake. He's like, yo, Meek came up here. He was like, I like these girls that you got in Dykeman, and I like it.
But it's him. To see again, like, I just think that if Drake embraced his corniness, like, I think he's so defensive. If he embraced corniness. It's okay to be a cool corny dude. Like, I just think he's just so defensive about it. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't want to believe it, bro. Like, you're you know what I'm saying? Like, I can tell that if Drake, honestly, like, do the thought experiment real quick. If Drake was not famous and he was just cool, like, would you be cool with Drake? Like, would you be his friend? Like, be honest. Like, think about the Degrassi dude.
So by his music, I don't know. Like, what do you mean?
Like, not saying that you would be mean to him or something, because we're not cruel people. Of course, like, you know what I'm saying? If I knew the nigga, I would speak to him. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't be my man's.
Wait, hold on. Because I know we're
call to go to the club and stop. Like,
hold on. And this is not fair because I know we're getting off.
Let's transition back to
I'm about to say we're getting so off. Yeah, we're getting like the view set. But I do want to bring it back, and I can bring it back with this transition I'm about to do. Sure. It is unfair because, like, I remember, like, one of my best articles on my website before I kind of, like, went off when I was, like, going over the chapters of Drake. The current chapter of Drake, I am definitely calling that dude up because he's mad fun. He be with the killers. He be with all the bad girls. At the time when Views came out, it was kind of, like, shaky because, like, all right, bro. I mean, you still my man musically, but would I hang out with you? I don't know. I mean, he would dance with Rihanna, so I'm a little salty about that. So it's like, I mean, you're my man's, but
confessing love to Nicki Minaj. Changed the whole. Drake was the whole, like, you know what I'm saying, giving his heart away, and he was very vulnerable. And not to say that he isn't now, because he's very vulnerable, but in a different type of way. But we all know that, of course, we know that he's bossed up, rightfully so. Nigga, you got some mills, you got some, you know what I'm saying, shit in the account, boss up, you know what I mean? But that doesn't, like, I think that I know naturally awkward and corny people who embrace it. You know what I'm saying? And that makes me fuck with them even more.
You understand? It's hard to, act like you corny when you got more than $100 million. You feel me?
And that's the thing. You can literally do anything you want. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it comes down to. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. And like, you could say he arguably did embrace his corniness in a video like Hotline Bling, where he was dancing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like, facts. Like, I really think that, like, that's the Drake I really fuck with. When did Hotline Bling come out, y'all? Views, pinnacle of his career. Yeah, I'm thinking, listen, like, I'm thinking that Drake is just, like, undeniably, we know the guy can make great music, right? I just think that, whether it's fair or not, I think that historically when we look at hip-hop, Drake is able to do things that some of the greats and other hip-hop artists can only dreamed of getting away with.
I just feel like that's a product of just time in general. That happens in all walks of life. Like, even in hoops, like, LeBron is getting away with the same shit that Jordan couldn't get away with. You know what I'm saying? But people try to slight Jordan or try to slight LeBron for, you wouldn't be able to play in this era. Or if you was in this era, you wouldn't be able to do such and such. But that's not the case. As time passes, things get more and more lenient. Even people are not even whipping their kids anymore, bro. You know what I mean? Like that was an anomaly.
Yeah,
black people are not whipping their kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's just as time passes, things get more lenient. We allow for more. But I think Drake has done probably the most phenomenal job of being able to balance being international and also being an outstanding rapper, bar for bar. You know what I mean? So I think that I don't think he gets as much credit for that. Oh, if he want to be a singer or a rapper, why can't he do both? What's wrong with doing both? What's wrong with doing both at a high level? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and so that I feel like with him being corny, God can't give you everything. He gave you the skills. You know what I mean? He gave you the skills. He gave you the ability to sing great, make great records, and meet amazing people. But just so happens you're a corn. You know what I mean? And that's what it is.
Real quick, I got a question.
Right,
just to get us back to views, because we can do a dissertation about Drake all night. But I was thinking, all right, we've been talking about the album, and I know everyone has like a different vibe of the album. I can tell you like my top 3 songs, right? And I can like break down why I like those songs for what they were trying to go. So my top 3 for me is 9, Feels No Way, and Western Road Flows, right? And to me, the best song of Western Road Flows is, I put it in his top singles. Like if this was like a song battle, I'd save that song for like the vibe of what that is. Cause I literally walked on Western Road before. So again, that's why it's a little biased out of everyone. So it's different when you're playing that song. It's like, dog, I feel this. I get the streets and like what these houses look like.
Right.
So when he goes to those songs, when it's like slightly mid up tempo and he's telling like a story, like 9 up, upside down 6, or like Feel No Ways. There's like that type of tempo that I was like, I fuck with that, right? And then when he switches when he switches like things like hype, and like my best friend loves hype, and that's because he's really rapping on it, but like it doesn't fit the synergy of like the sequencing. That's why for me, when I look at Views, right, if Views was sequenced differently, I bet you I'd like it more. And that's the problem. That's why I learned from like listening to music. We've been listening to music for a long time. Sequencing is so important.
Armin, I tell y'all that in the chat all the time, dog. Sequencing is one of the most underrated and most important things in all albums. Like Skip said, I feel that album, if you take out a song or two and rearrange the album, I think we're talking about a completely different album in his pantheon. You know what I mean? Yeah. To me, you know what I mean? Which we could be talking about a top 3. There's a couple songs you could take out and rearrange, and I think it'd be fine. But
I agree. So there was someone today, a writer from Complex, who said, if Views was burning in a fire, people wouldn't save any of the songs from it. Is that a true or a false statement?
Who said that?
You hear this shit?
That is.
Do you hear this shit?
No, that's
somebody tells me today the only good song on Views is Granny. I mean,
somebody said Future had the best verse.
Like,
wait, what? What?
But anyways, all right, no. Let's do this. If Views is burning in a fire, are you saving any of the songs from it?
I think some of Drake's best songs in his career are on that song. I think he has a few of his best songs in his career on every album personally. But I think Feel No Ways is one of the best songs he's ever done to me. I feel like as far as that
Wait, hold on. No, I need you to answer now, bro. Why you got that face? Because every time I bring up Feel No Ways, I'm waiting for everybody to agree with me. And then y'all start doing the face like this. What is that?
Wait, who's doing their face?
Who's doing their face?
Nah,
yo, Dev.
That's take me, bro. Like, Feel No Ways. I mean, that's a great song. I honestly think I would think if anybody would go to any R&B joint, it's Fire and Desire. I'm surprised nobody said that.
I hate Fire and Desire. I hate Fire and Desire.
I think Fire.
I love the faces of Alex and Armand because I too do not like that song. I don't like that song. I really don't like that song.
This is hilarious because I'm not really a Drake fan, so this is like I think that's like top 3 on the whole entire.
I hate that song.
So it's like top
now I'm about to say my top 3 because niggas out here wild.
See, I'm telling you,
niggas out here wild. Feel No Ways is number 1. Feel No Ways is the best song.
Top 3.
Feel No Ways is a top 3 song on the album. Undeniably.
I put it top 3.
For me, Feel No Ways is the best song on the album. Number 2 is You With Me. Number 3 is Fire and Desire.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I feel like You With Me is a top 5 song. I feel like You With Me is a top 5 song.
My top 3 is Fire and Desire, You With Me, and Child's Play. I just love that song.
I hate Child's Play.
Wait.
I love Child's Play makes me cringe. It makes me cringe whenever it comes on.
Nah, but I feel bad because the only reason why I like Child's Play is because of the intro. Is like, you see, and that's the reason why I love it. Like, it doesn't even make sense together. It just makes me feel like, man, she ain't shit. She's talking to everybody from the basketball team. She got a courtside seat at basketball team. She's talking to one of them. She's fucking one of the basketball teams. I was like,
I do believe With You is also one of the best songs.
That's a banger.
It's absolute, and I think it's honestly, personally, I think its placement in the album is the most perfect placement throughout the entire album for any song.
Yeah, it's close to the middle.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, just to answer, like, look, we're talking about our top 3. I want A to say what his top 3, but it's 20 songs. I would say 14 of those songs. Like, if you lose Controller and One Dance, we don't have the Controller work One Dance trilogy of you need all 3. And then you got to add the Tory Lanez version to make it a killer 4. You need those songs.
2016 was when the time like we started to digest things like through the DSPs, right? Where the retention started to clock out. So we're seeing something for 20 tracks, and we sitting here like, nah, nigga, I ain't used to this right now digitally. Anyway, my top 3, I got You With Me, Feel No Ways, and Faithful. That was like, listen, Faithful, like the way Faithful is constructed for me does everything for me. It does everything I needed to do for me. I got a Pimp C verse. Division comes on it so melodically. And if you've noticed, a lot of Drake's kind of R&B singles after kind of reflect Division sound. But that's a conversation for another
day. Indeed.
That's a whole nother. And that was sort of like my introduction to them. Not that I haven't heard their, I don't even know if they had a project out back then. I think they had the
They dropped September 5th, like maybe a couple weeks before Views dropped.
Right. So they were still like really fresh, and I didn't know.
Nobody knew them.
I didn't know if it was 2 people, but when I heard them on the back part of that song, I just get like nostalgic vibes every time I hear it, man. Like I really fuck with Faith.
I'm gonna actually change my Child's Play to Redemption, because I think actually Redemption is really slept on. Like.
But it's part of that. It's part of that, like 2 to, like I told you before, like that 2 to 8 song. Like, you know, you got. I'm looking at the track list. I split the screen, so it's like 9, You With Me, Feel No Ways, Hype. Hype just kind of gets by because it's in between Feel No Ways and Western Road Flows. Then you got Redemption, which is a nice compliment. It comes right after Western Road Flows. Then you go right up with that Party Next Door Drake vibe. I love the collaborations. Like, they don't really miss. I think people sleep on those. But Redemption is really hard. I agree with you.
I agree.
I think Redemption got to go up there just because it's your classic Drake format song, singing into the, like, I remember when Drake first started doing that, that was like, what the fuck? Like, when he started going to the singing into the rapping, not like kind of like blended it in, like kind of almost making 2 different songs. So that's almost like the Drake blueprint to the T. But yeah, man, like, This was a good album, yo.
Just be doing the R&B records though. Why do y'all hate Fire and Desire?
Yeah. I just think here's what it is for me, honestly. I just think it wasn't time for that. Like, after the interlude, I feel like, if you just go into Views, the record from Summer's Over interlude into that record, Fire and Desire just has no placement for me. It just doesn't do anything for me. If you take that song out and go Summer's Over interlude into Views, I think we're talking about one of the more perfect transitions throughout the album. That's just me.
So that's a really good point, Yaw, because I was going to say, I feel like Views was his most audacious effort in that, like, all his albums previously were just hip-hop, R&B, and then blurring the lines between hip-hop and R&B.
Mm-hmm.
Views, he gave you those similar records, and he gave you the Afro beats, the pop-type records, but if it felt like the R&B on Views might have been at its least. Like, I'm trying to think of the pure R&B records, like With You.
Yeah, With You.
Redemption, and Redemption's half rap, so it's not even really pure R&B.
Yeah.
Like, With You and Fire and Desire. I can't really think of any, and Summer's Over interlude, but that's not him.
That's not even him. That's Majid, I can't think of his name right now.
I'm thinking, like, as a guy who feels responsible to serve you both hip-hop and R&B primarily, and then all these other genres, I think he felt like Fire and Desire was a necessity.
Yeah, to put on.
Give you that
type
I
agree.
Yeah. But I like it. That's crazy that you guys don't like it. Damn.
Wait, okay. So remember when I was saying sequencing? Because I have like my phone on a doctor's side, so I'm trying to hear like snippets and stuff.
Yeah.
Here's my. It's a very interesting take because I was listening to the beginning of Summer's Over. I listened to Fire and Desire, then Views. What if we switch like Fire and Desire and Views places? Because I feel like it's just what he said. I feel like Summer's Over. If it goes better into Views, right?
It just blends way better.
I feel like that's what gets me upset. Because when I listen to it, it's very hard for me to get into it because when I'm listening to the tempo that Summer's Over, right? Because I get it. Summer's Over. We're going back into the very horrible, brutal fucking Canada cold, right? And it's supposed to get all like romantic and shit. I can feel like Views would follow that interlude so much better, right? And then, Fire and Desire, that singing song was like, if you remember how Views is, I probably would like Fire and Desire after Views. I think that would make me like that song better. I think Views would be a better lead-in to Fire and Desire. And it's very interesting because we're talking about sequencing, so we can't imagine it because we're used to the default. Yeah. But I just don't like where it is because it feels like someone was doing like a very concise crossover, like, and then they went, I'm going to go crazy with it. And it's like, why did you go crazy with this?
You didn't need to. Yeah. The transition was right there for you. It was literally right there for you. It was on a platter for you right there, and you kind of decided to go rogue.
Because girls love that song, but girls like songs like that. And I'm not saying it's a bad song. I just feel where it is in the order. I bet if I moved it somewhere, like I even made like a perfect. And this is about Scorpion. I'm going to talk about it and come right back. There was like a perfect way I made like the track list for Scorpion. I dropped some songs and like I can listen to if I drop like 6, 7, 8 songs, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like if I change the order for Fire and Desire, I bet you I loved it. Because you always have the instinct of where it is in the order. It's like, nigga, again? I just want to get to Views now. Again?
And that's what, like you said, I want to get the Views. I skip it every single time that I was listening to the album. I was like, I'm out. This is next. I can't even.
Really?
That's
every time.
I will say though, if he would have ended on Fire and Desire, it would have sounded better.
That would have been spooky. That would have
been outro. Fire and Desire is an outro. 100%.
Because to be being honest, Views is not it doesn't feel like an outro song. It feels like a setup.
It feels like we're in the middle of something.
Yeah, it feels like a setup to something else. So when I look at it, it's like I don't even put Views as a top 3 closing song because Hotline Bling is that bonus song. But when I listen to it, it's like, this is how we ending this?
Yeah,
this is really how we ending this?
And that's another thing for me. That's why I don't. I'm not saying I don't love the album because I know he mentioned playing devil's advocate for Drake, but I don't think it's playing devil's advocate. I think it's more that when some of our greats make so much great music, we have to grade them on that same curve. You know what I mean? Just like the same with Jay-Z and Kingdom Come. Like that album is probably great for just a regular rapper, but for Jay-Z, it's not good. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right. I just feel like there's certain spots he just could have just nailed a little better. You know what I mean? Not to take away from him, but
I will say I feel like what really makes the album for me is personally like originally I didn't like Keep the Family Close, right? But back then 2 through 12 is just like doing it for me, right? And again, if he would have reduced the size of this album, I'm talking like 15, 16 records. This album sounds completely different. I could literally play 2 through 12.
It does, but like I said, the opening, and the way it closed. I'm not saying I'm cool with you closing on Views. I'm just not cool with Fire and Desire going into Views, and as well as I mentioned earlier, I can't stand Keep the Family Close. So those are some of the knocks on the album for me. Yeah. Intro, outro are very important for me. Very important.
Also, I got another hot take.
Go for it.
I feel like, just like what we were saying, right? I don't think Keep the Family Close should be first, right? I think it should be closer to the end. I just don't know where I'd put it. But I feel like the tempo and how it feels, like it feels mad dark, and I get it. He's supposed to do that transition stuff, but I feel like it belongs in the end. I just don't know where it is.
After an interlude or something.
But something, it belongs there because this is like when we play around with the sequencing. Because the only reason why, again, I love studying artists and trying to see what their mind is in making it, because then I start having a deeper appreciation for what the album is. So when people ask me what's my favorite Drake, I say nothing was the same. When people ask what's my favorite Kendrick, to me, I love Good Kid, Mad City, right? It's not saying it's the best. It's what I resonate more because of the hunger with that first and what the storytelling was. And then after that is, I think, To Pimp a Butterfly, just because of that storytelling. But all his things are good. What is that? J. Cole is 2014 Forest Hill Drive. I love the storytelling of that. Right. So when I'm looking at something like this, it's kind of like what one of y'all said earlier. I think it was Yaw, right?
Yeah.
Did I say your name here?
Yaw.
Got to get used to Yeah.
All good.
My bad, getting that right. But I feel like the problem with Drake is sometimes he pumps it up with too much kind of like meat, and he doesn't trim the fat. And these are all individually great songs. But even with Scorpion, like I said, when you're giving us all this music, it's cool. But I remember when Drake would give us like, like those singles or like those little 2-packs that they don't make the album, but it's like, all right, cool. He's in album mode. I'm ready for it. But when you make, in my opinion, you're making more than 13, 14 records, unless all 13, 14 records slap together, I don't need 13, 14 records or more than that. I just need it to be concise, bang it out. And then now with the streaming thing, I'll put on replay. But now it's like with 20, I'm skipping a lot. Like I can skip some things. Like pop style, always skip. Certain songs you skip.
Always.
That's it.
No, question.
Pop style leads the league in skips for me.
Pop style was going when it first the version.
It was. It definitely was.
When it first that song was going.
It was.
It
upset me that it was going. I'm gonna be honest with you.
That song was going. That was on the radio. You heard it everywhere.
Especially when Kanye and Hov were on it. Like that was a special one.
That's a fact.
I mean, that's the reason why I don't like it, because Kanye and Hov, they're not on it.
But they was beefing.
I think this is a good question though, because a couple of you have acknowledged that the album came out when streaming was kind of new. So do you feel like people's perceptions of the album initially, and then people have kind of been stuck in that perception and they haven't been able to appreciate how it's aged over time because a 20-song album felt new to us because streaming was so overwhelming? Like back in the day, we weren't reading 20-song track lists. We were just putting a CD in and just listening to whatever an artist gave us. Now we're reading track lists, we're seeing features, we're going specifically to songs we want to hear. So do you guys feel like streaming and how big Drake was in introducing Apple Music and how big his singles were, does that play into people's perceptions of the album back then and still?
I'm just gonna get my out of the way so y'all can talk. I feel like, so remember when Care Package came out and we were bumping the fuck out of those things?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times with Drake stuff, we compare him to Braun. I feel like he just ages exactly like Laine. So a lot of times we're at an album where I used to hate this album, but then I got older, like I was like 25, 26. Now I'm going to be 30. There's certain life things that happen to me where it comes to relationships, when it comes to work, when it comes to friends, where Drake will make something that it won't slap for you at that moment. But I give you 2-3 years, like like older pieces of work, some older songs. I even went back to like Comeback Season and Room for Improvement. I was like, well, damn, that life experience. And that's what makes Drake so impeccable to me, is that I feel like now when we're looking at the streaming stuff, now we care more about storylines. We care more about, because if you're going to get these streams, you're going to have to kind of earn, like, is it worth me playing it? Because, like, we're not going to be all choosy unless your album sucks. We're going to play the album over, like, a couple of times. Then we're going to get into our favorites. But that first day, that first 3 or 4 days, we're very intentional with how we take apart the album. So I think revisiting now, I appreciate the album more now than I did then. And I feel like it always takes me a year or two to really appreciate a Drake album. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Dave. You got it.
All right, bet. Nah, yeah, pretty much similar sentiments. I don't really think that streaming in this case really played a role because it's Drake. I think that Drake, like, his music is digested in the same way. Like, you go to Take Care, if you're reading this too late, even Nothing Was the Same. I've heard people, the first week of listening to it, like, yeah, it's all right, or whatever. And then a lot of songs become classics, that you just never knew, you know what I'm saying? The Furthest Thing. And like, I remember that song just used to go on that second part when he was rapping. So I think that, like, whether or not if he was like at the beginning of the streaming or well in it, I think that doesn't really have an effect on Drake's music. I just think Drake's music ages over time because it's music that more often than not, I mean, today you have to listen to it. And not like it's not like, Nas in the 90s with triple and quadruple entendres and, you got to really rewind it back. But what happens is, like, people are so used to this microwave music and they want these microwave takes that when you get, a large chunk of, information that you have to sit there and digest, and you can't just rap along with it and you can't just understand it right away, then it takes a longer for people to sit down and let it digest into their system. And I just think that's the type of Drake type of artist that Drake is, regardless of streaming or, you know, CDs. Like,
Yeah, I think regardless, streaming whatever. I think first of all he makes the music he makes is just really really good. It's really listenable and it's really relatable. You know what I mean? You have all three of those things, you're always going to be somewhat successful. And if you have high level music, you're going to be, you know, the biggest artist in the world. I'll give you an example. I remember when Take Care was coming out, and I think Marvin's Room was one of the first songs that dropped before the album came out. I was in the studio, I was in Brooklyn, and my homie had the window open, and somebody drove past. It's probably maybe 2 months before the album came out. And somebody drove past, blaring it slow. And we just sat there. My homie said, yeah, that's that new Drake, bro. I just remember him saying that. Like, that. He was like, that shit's always going to get played no matter what. It just doesn't matter. Like, people are always just like abreast and always want to know what's going on with him. So he's always going to sell. He's always going to get listens. He's always going to get views on YouTube, regardless of what music he puts out. I do feel Views was I feel like the numbers probably supersede what the album was really worth quality-wise, but I feel like it was a very decent album. I don't think it's – I would probably say it's maybe fifth or sixth for Drake projects for me.
Fifth or sixth?
Yeah.
I'm going with this take. I'm sticking to it. That I think that this is number one. And not because of, you know, just the bars and stuff. If it's purely because of bars, I'll probably go with Nothing Was the Same.
So overall, do you think this is better than Nothing Was the Same, as an overall total package of an album?
Yes.
Wow.
Because of where Drake was in his career at the time. Like, I'm not judging it based off of just the project alone. I'm basing off the project and where the artist was in his career. When Nothing Was the Same, we knew Drake was that boy on the block. He was that stay scheming dude, the dude that come on shit and body it, and you're like, yo, everybody's like, yo, who's this hot kid? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course we knew who he was, but he wasn't Drake yet. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't who he is now.
He wasn't. But let me ask you this: Do you think that where he was supersede? Okay, you think him putting an album in regards to where he was, you think that supersedes him putting out an album that took him somewhere? You understand what I'm saying? Like, Nothing Was the Same took him to Views, to me. You know what I mean? Like, that was a turn up. So you think as far as him putting an album of Views is worth more than what an album can do for you?
I understand what you're saying. Two things. Well, the first part, I kind of disagree with that. Nothing Was the Same was the bridge between that and Views. I think if you're reading this, it's too late. Like, people cast that away. If you read this, Too Late was really good.
It was, but the reason why I said it is because the single he had on Nothing Was the Same, Just Hold On, We're Going Home. I think that was like one of his best singles ever. I think it kind of like catapulted him. So go ahead.
All right, so and then part two to that, like, I just think that, again, it brought him to that time, but I also think that this album, Views, brought him into what he is now. Like, I think that this has been the hot. Views was the hottest he ever was. Like, he literally, Drake always had music flowing, you know, dumping through the radios, but he had 2016 on lock. And that was different. And that was because, and I really think that was because, like, he had a lot of people on his side. It was a pick a side year. It was either you gonna fuck with Drake, you gonna fuck with Meek Mill. And that's what it was. And then once he had that pick a side kind of, you know what I'm saying, going thing on hip hop, on artists is choosing sides, you know what I'm saying, fans, all types of media members, you got all these people on his side. Like, literally no one was on Meek Mill's side. I don't care. Only reason you were on Meek Mill's side if you were a Meek Mill fan. That is it. Everybody hated Meek Mill, you know what I'm saying, making
That was a rough year, man. If you're a Drake and Meek Mill fan, it hurts your heart.
He just didn't deliver, man. Meek didn't deliver. We needed him to deliver, and he didn't deliver.
Nah, I'm not gonna hold you. Well, first of all, let me just introduce myself. I'm Jacques.
Goddamn Six Ranger, white ass Ranger coming when we needed help at the last minute.
I was just gonna say, Meek definitely delivered on wins and losses. I mean, even if you line it up next to championship, It's probably of the same quality, if not higher. I think the content's the same, the production's the same, like not much change. So he delivered, but I think that Drake controlled the narrative and it just made him look bad. But listen to the album, it's lit.
Not in regards to the album. I was talking about the diss track. That's what.
He should have got War Pain first.
Not only that, but or he should have whatever the continuation where however that first joint ended, that should have continued. Like if you want to turn up on Drake, you got to go all the way. Or you go to the L.
He didn't know that though.
He didn't have the info. He didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't know that.
But wait, yo, Dev. I was just listening to what you were saying, right? And just listen to what you're saying. I get what you're saying about views because we're talking about Hotline Bling. That's one of his like highest kind of like charted singles, right? And I get it. That's kind of like, okay, that was his 81-point game, right? I love using basketball reference. It just makes sense. Okay. I'm just talking complete package, bro. Like how they like, you know, like the 5 mics and stuff. Like if I gave a person an album, I'm not talking his mixtapes. I was like, if you listen to this with Drake, you'll understand his other project or how he does this. I'm gonna give him Nothing Was the Same over Views because of like that process, right? Because then they're gonna understand like, all right, Nothing Was the Same. Then it's like the What a Time to Be Alive, and if you're reading this, it's too late. And then when you see Views, like I understand that. But if I gave someone Views just because of Hotline Bling and Controller, and they look at his other stuff, it's like, why the fuck is he doing this? It's like, yo, this is when he's experimenting and doing like a little bit different with that. That's why, it has a hottest single and at that time highest impact. But he needed like Take Care and Nothing Was the Same to like show people that those two, like those albums came out like what, probably like 12, 15 months between each other, but he was slapping on features. It's like, that boy was hungry. Not saying he's not as hungry now, but
definitely not as hungry now. Let's
do this. Let's go track for track, shall we? Let's go track.
That's a bad idea. Let's not do that though. Listen, the track for track thing is tough, man.
You don't want to do that.
You don't
want to do Nothing With the Same.
Hold on.
So you not want to do track for track? I just want to see how it lines up with each other.
Lines up with who? Nothing Was the Same in Views?
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
It's a wash. It's a wash.
Don't do that, bro.
It's a wash. It's a wash.
Here's the thing.
It's not even worth it.
Here's the thing. Views, I think Views introduced people to Drake the icon. That was when he became a true icon.
Okay.
Nothing Was the Same was more cohesive though.
What?
Agreed.
Nothing Was the Same was more cohesive.
It was better.
Okay, right.
It's
overall better.
It's two different periods of his career. Nothing Was the Same. He was still I think he just hit star status, but there's a difference between star and an icon for me.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I think that's the argument I'm making basically is that like we know that was a better pretty much any artist you point to, if you point to their sophomore/freshman album, it's probably their best album ever. You can to like almost 90% of artists, you can say that about 90% of artists. Like that's when their roots are deep into the music. I'm talking about like what was most beneficial for Drake in his career and what is his highest moment in time. I think that Views era, that just like that catapulted him into a whole new like realm. Then we're seeing all types of pop things from Drake and like I don't know. I just feel like that put him in a whole different class.
I agree. I think the mission and the purpose of each album was different, and so that's why they came out with different results. Like he had Hotline Bling, Controller, One Dance on Views, but that's because at that point he wasn't trying to be the best rapper alive anymore. On Nothing Was the Same, he was still trying to chase that classic, be the best rapper alive, etc. So, I mean, they served different purposes, but if you're just looking at quality of the music, which is really just like a after effect of what his intent was going into making it. Nothing Was the Same is gonna be better, because if you put 20 songs on an album, you're really not trying to make a classic album. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's
like you trying to get hits, trying to get streams. Like
that's
real quick. Nothing Was the Same only had 13 tracks in the regular version.
In the regular version,
the deluxe version had 15. So I'm just letting you know, even if we try to do like a track by track, we could put the best 15 tracks of Views. It's getting smoked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Views is not.
Nothing Was the Same flawless. Is that what you're saying to me?
Nah. What? That's not. Nah.
Hold on.
Don't say that.
It's like a 4.8 out of 5 though.
Wait a minute.
What?
What?
It's like a 4.8 out of 5. Nothing Was the Same.
I don't know, man.
Dog, Nothing Was the Same. A tough album.
I give it a 4.5. 4.5.
4.5 is fair. 4.5 is fair.
Take Care of Me is a 4.7.
Nah.
So wait, guys, and this is very important.
Wait. You think
This is very important because there's two types of people, and Dev is just a special golden egg. There's people that are like Take Care, and there are people that are Nothing Was the Same. I'm always Take Care's number 2.
Take Care's
always
number 2.
Take Care is my favorite Drake album.
It's my favorite. I don't know if it's the best.
Take Care number 2. Take Care number 2 because
Take Care.
Yeah. The
What?
music
I'm bugging?
name was.
Dog, here's the thing.
Take Care is better than
Here's the thing. And I think albums have moments.
Yeah.
Like honestly, when you get to that 305 in my city or Nothing Was the Same, that shit. It's like okay, now we're like level.
Drop.
Now we hit that level.
That doesn't hit as far as HYFR and all that shit. Like I feel like HYF, I feel like Take Care had bigger moments to me, and that's what makes it classic. Like that's what distinguishes a classic between regular good album. Like how many
bigger
classics?
you know what it is? For me, I think Take Care is great, but I think the succession of joints that are on Nothing Was the Same, like there's a stretch of songs in there that are absolutely just like I want to say it's from like
is it really
7 to like 13.
Whoa, hold on, let me pull up the track list.
I'm pulling it right now.
What album are we talking about? What album are we talking about? What album are we talking about?
I'm looking, all right, look.
You say Nothing Was the Same?
7 to 13? Dog, from 6 to 15, this shit is flawless. This is a flawless album.
Connect is not flawless. Connect to me?
My bad. Other than Connect.
to 15.
Other than Connect. My bad.
Nah. Connect is like that. I love Connect.
Connect is not a super high quality song.
Connect is a good record. It's not a flawless record.
Yeah, exactly. It's not flawless. But the language is not flawless to me. That's an old flow he used.
Yo, that language is tough. That language is tough.
Language is tough.
Bro. That language is tough.
I hit it. Shut up.
That language is tough. Language.
305 to my city.
Son.
Language is hard.
Don't rap. All right. Nah, put some respect on Connect. Connect. Put some respect on Connect. Let's bring it back to views.
My bad. My fault.
It's okay. No, I love it. This is gonna be great. So views, 2016, 20 songs, crazy singles going into it, all the polarizing reactions. Some of us feel like it's aged well. Since then, it's been 4 years. Can anyone confidently call Views a classic?
Nope.
No.
Never. No.
No. Here come Dev.
Drake only got 2 classics. Drake only got 2 classics.
Arguably, because he definitely don't got 2. Definitely don't got 2.
You know what's so crazy? Because
he got 2 classics.
Actually, Drake fans.
Drake got 2 classics.
Drake got 2. It's true, and I'm a Drake.
He don't.
Second and third album.
What's the other one?
It's Take Care and It's Nothing Was the Same.
It's Take Care and Nothing Was the Same.
It's not both.
What else?
It's both of them.
Not both.
It's both of them.
Because look,
it's 1A, 1B. 1A, 1B, bro.
Once you establish what the metrics of a classic are, right? Like,
classic.
If you think about the metrics,
what do we define as
classic? Take Care, you have
a straight through. Like I can put it
Take Care.
That's a classic.
Something you go straight through. That's a classic.
That's one metric.
That's a classic.
Something you go straight through.
That's
a big one, but then the other one is how many classic moments are there and what's the scale of the classic
You can go straight through the blueprint. You can go straight through the blueprint.
One? Here's the thing. I think every classic album is allowed one.
Yeah.
Is allowed one.
That's
allowed one.
Illmatic got one too.
Yeah.
Illmatic has none.
Illmatic has one.
Illmatic has none.
Bro,
Illmatic has no best song.
Wait, guys.
Not good, bro.
Guys, before we talk about every album that's not Views, I will say, look, like like what I consider a classic, and it's very interesting. Like we do have like all right, we're looking by artist. I always say a classic is like, if we're looking at right now, like The Last Dance for like Jordan, like that's one of his like best seasons, right? Just because of the storytelling, all that stuff. So like, kind of like what Dev's saying, that's like his views. It's not the views, but that impact of like, yo, MJ's a star, right? Yeah. I'm saying from like looking at it from one to the last song, right? If I was just listening to it with everyone, right? I feel like, and just like what Jacques was saying, when it comes to like, you have moments, I think Take Care and Nothing Was the Same, how it was sequenced, how the storytelling is for those things. And also, Jacques didn't come in when I was saying before about the Memento version, the additional hidden story of there was a reason why he had issues with Apple of trying to get his deluxe version. They cannot reverse the order of a song. That's why we got those songs. I think Come Through and All Me with Big Sean, because the original deluxe is supposed to be from 13 to 1. It's supposed to even show 13 to 1, but they was like, no, we're not doing it. So that's the reason why those two songs happened. So even with that story of understanding what that is, everything else after that, he was doing other things. But if I was like to play people, it's like, yo, if you told me Take Care is number one, I couldn't argue with you, because to me, Take Care is 1A, 1B, and I Say Nothing was the same the other thing, because that's when like that period of time when it's like those albums cohesive. I hardly skip when I listen to it. Even now, I don't skip. And if I only skip a song, it's just because I wanted to get to know the song. Reviews, it has all the capabilities to be a classic, but it has an extra 3-4 songs. You gotta be honest. His best.
Once you got that many skips, like, first of all, you disqualifying. Like, if you have 3-4 skips, you're disqualifying. On top of that, the ones that you don't skip, you have to objectively rank the quality of each song. Like, you could have joints that you don't skip, but not each song is a 10. You feel me? Like, how do those songs interact together? What's, like, the sound quality of them, etc. So, if you look at that, I mean, even the joints I don't skip on views, I'm not saying 9 is a classic song. Like, 9 is not a classic. To me, it's a very simple, kind of lazy type. You feel me? Like, he's chilling. But then you got Redemption. Feel me? Like, Redemption is like, oh, that's of a quality. You know what I mean? Like, it has the qualities of a classic song. So I don't think it hits that consistently. Take Care, it hits that. Nothing Was the Same, it hits that.
Yeah.
Views, it doesn't really hit that for me.
You know, I honestly, Skip and other guys here, I thought better of y'all. I thought better of y'all. And it's really
This nigga stupid. This guy's out of pocket.
More Life, I'm kicking you out of here.
I'm gonna explain to
More Life is heat though.
Not a classic.
More Life is tough though.
Not a classic.
I'm gonna explain to the world right now why everybody in this pod is alive, and it's crazy. Because what did everybody finish saying when we first started talking about views? They instantly recalled where they were in life, what Johns they had, what jobs you had, where you got your last haircut.
I'm making a classic.
I do that with all albums.
I'm about to say, I do that with any album.
Wait, I'm not done. Finish my story. That's the one thing. Okay, we're not to say that we don't remember where we were when Nothing Was the Same and Take Care dropped, because I can probably recall on some moments. But how do we ever have an album that dominates and hold at least 5 months? When that album dropped in April, how does the album dominate from April until December?
When you have
classic.
When you have 4 to 5 smashes,
exactly, that's what it was, bro.
That's
controller.
Album.
That's the cheat code.
Respectfully.
But it's nothing. It's nothing for Drake to have 3 or 4 singles on the album.
Exactly.
All of his albums have 3 or 4 singles.
It's not like we're talking about 50 Cent, Give It You Die Trying, where literally you were hearing like 9 songs from the album on the radio.
Hold On With Going Home was on the charts crazy. That was on Nothing Was the Same. He did not dominate for half a year with one album.
I think
he had bigger smashes on views, and he had more. He had Control and One Dance back to back. Those are bigger global smashes, like
bro. Thank you, John.
I don't know for a year, 2 years.
And that's the part of your psyche I'm trying to attack, because I'm like, there are different levels to classic and success. Like, just because it may not have been in your mind like the best project put together, I think that what also makes it classic is that the impact it had on hip hop and the generation. Everybody will remember 2016. That is a classic moment in time. That's a classic.
I think a moment and impact don't equate to classic though. That don't equate, like, that's just high impact, and that's a moment, and that goes on.
100%.
Feel me? Like, classic means timeless. Like, you could drop that today, and niggas are
If you drop views today, that album would go. Stop. If he dropped that album today, it would go. Stop.
It would. How many skips does Views have?
Like 5.
4.
I'm honestly
4 skips.
I'm skipping 9. Keep the family close. Hype. Grammys. Child's Play. Pop Style.
That ain't a classic.
It's not a classic.
It's not. It's not.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay, or Nothing Was the Same. I'm skipping Worst Behavior.
You're bugging.
You skip Worst Behavior?
Yes, I'm skipping.
You're bugging.
I feel him on that. Nah, I'm letting him rock. I feel him
Nah,
on that.
I'm not skipping Worst
You're skipping Worst Behavior, bro. You're skipping Worst Behavior, bro.
So I could be Serena when she's playing with her left. Yo,
Bro, you're
are you
skipping.
kidding?
I'm not skipping that.
Bro, you're skipping. Hold On, We're Going Home, bro.
You're bugging.
Nah.
You're also bugging.
What?
You're
bugging.
skipping Connect, bro. You're skipping 305 to my
I'm skipping Connect. Not 305. I'm skipping Connect, though.
Nah, Dev doing this for TV. He doing it for TV.
Skipping
That's what
Own It.
he's doing it for TV. Bro.
Yo, no cap, bro. No cap. Because honestly, which I really, bro, views, You With Me, Redemption, 9.
Listen, Redemption doesn't compare honestly to probably 90% of what
Okay, you're right, but what I'm saying,
I'm right.
listen, you're right in that aspect, but what I'm saying is levels and it's different ways to impact in a classical way.
No, you're right.
I think-
When I'm saying like overall, right? Because you're right. There's always going to be like factors to equate to if it's a classic or not, right?
That's what I mean. Like, yeah.
If I'm looking at the overall picture, including with what you're saying, it still don't make it a classic.
Don't.
No, it really don't.
Like,
It's okay, though. It's okay. It's not. It's a good album.
it's too many
It
skips.
aged well.
Yeah, well, too many skips though. Too many skips.
Skips for
Oh,
me.
man, we got a pod again another day and get on this classic combo.
The skips for me are Keep the Family Close.
Thanks.
Still Here is a skip for me.
Skip. Thanks.
Child's Play is definitely a skip for me.
Skip.
Pop Style definitely a skip for me.
Skip.
Fire and Desire. So we're talking about 5.
Hold up.
We discussed this already. You weren't here. We discussed this earlier.
You skip Fire and Desire?
Get him, Jacques.
Bugging, right?
I hate Fire and Desire.
Bro, y'all, I'm gonna need you to bump that 9 times tonight.
Listen. So you know what I do when we leave here tonight. I'll make sure I hop on Twitter tomorrow after we leave here tonight. I'll listen to it. Then I'll hop on Twitter. I'll give you my full assessment.
Follow me.
Fire and Desire is
yeah.
timeless. I'm not gonna hold you.
But yeah, honestly, Fire and Desire goes into Drake's R&B Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's Hall of Fame. Yeah, Hall of Fame. That's what Teenage Fever, all that
Marvin's
Yes.
A Night Off.
Feel me?
Shot for Me, like that's up there.
I forgot about Shot for Me.
But Shot for Me is lit. Now you bugging.
Shot for Me is definitely dope. I fuck with Shot.
Even though it's the Weeknd song.
Oh man, shots fired.
A couple people say
Related to this conversation, man. It's a lot of layers.
This is a great conversation, yeah. And this is Drake. Drake, you can talk about endlessly so many different things. Like I feel like we talked more about other things than the actual album views. It just shows how much there is to discuss. But just to, I think a good closing thing. A couple people said where they rank views in Drake's discography. I think Yaw said it was top 5, top 6.
5 or 6 for me. I listen to a shitload of Drake, so for me,
I give it 5 or 6.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Because you got what? If you're reading this too late, Take Care, So Far.
Here's the thing.
Number 1, baby.
We have to designate studio albums from mixtapes. If you read this is too
very
late,
important.
even though it has an album feel to it, it has an album feel, but it's a mixtape. So
facts.
So if we're talking studio albums, we got Thank Me Later, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, Views, and Scorpion.
And if you're reading this is too late.
More likely it's technically a compilation album too.
If you're reading this is considered a mixtape. I
But
lost an argument about
It's
this.
the tape. No. Come on,
ago.
guys. Let's not forget he was trying to get off the label for that album.
Yeah.
Project. Come on,
But it didn't work.
He didn't even get off the label.
But
It didn't work.
for me,
It didn't work.
normally I just go by projects. Whatever project you put out.
No.
yeah, that's good.
If we're gonna go by, because look, this is the Stay Busy host. This is his captain mission. If we're going by that, then technically from that rule, and it makes me cringe in all of the cells in my body to say this, Views technically would be the third. Oh, I'm sick in my stomach. Third album.
That's
sick.
That don't make it good.
As a
Yeah,
third
yeah.
studio, it's not bad.
Yeah, like you got 4 studio albums, it's gonna make it 3. That's not.
But if we're talking about projects, it's 5. It's the 5th best one.
Yeah.
Wait, and I don't count So Far Gone because it's legendary. I just put that to the side like a legendary.
That's a mixtape too. So far, that's a mixtape too. Like in terms of albums, you got Thank Me Later, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, Views, and Scorpion. Like that's what you got to work with. So Views being top 5 makes sense there.
Yeah.
But More Life is a playlist compilation album technically. That's why.
And yo, Thank Me Later might be last. I'm not gonna hold you.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
That shit was caca.
Yeah, man, views.
It was not caca though, bro. Come on, man.
Yo, bro.
Yeah.
Niggas was off for being off of that shit.
It's
They tried to
caca relative to what Drake has given us.
Yeah.
They tried to turn it into
As I stated earlier. So, you know.
Yeah, man.
Is there anyone else who wants to give their hierarchy for where views rank?
I'm gonna go right behind Skip. I'm gonna go with Views for the 3rd slot. Unfortunately, I think we can all agree that Scorpion is dead last.
Whoa. Nah.
We cannot.
Thank Me Later dead last. Scorpion 4.
Scorpion is. Yeah.
Doesn't Scorpion got God's Plan?
We're gonna
Scorpion.
have a
Hold on.
Yeah.
Scorpion. Nah, never mind. I'm not.
Nah, don't get crazy.
Hold on. I'm on.
Like 50 songs on there, 10 are good.
I'm on. About 10 are good.
Yeah. Nigga,
Right.
he wasted a whole feature. Don't forget about that. Unforgivable. Nigga was wild with that. How you waste a whole
Views, man.
I'm still mad at him for Scorpion, but somebody go next, man.
I'm going Views, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same. If you're reading this too late, Scorpion.
Okay.
I mean, it's for all the projects? We're ranking all the projects right now?
Well, I know just my order. I don't know.
Okay.
Just do
Of
whatever.
albums,
This is my order.
I'm gonna go Nothing Was the Same. Take Care. I'm actually gonna go with I like Scorpion. I actually like the Scorpion album. I'm gonna go Scorpion. If we're taking the mixtapes out, I'll go Scorpion 3rd.
Go back to Scorpion tonight.
3rd. Then I'm gonna go. Then I'm gonna go Views. I think Scorpion's better than Views. I'm gonna go Views, and then I'm gonna go.
This just took a
crazy.
Maybe not. Nah, you know what? I'm wilding. Views is 3rd. Views is 3rd.
Oh,
My bad. Nah, I didn't really see this.
You're like Scorpion? Do we remember Scorpion?
Nah, Scorpion was really bad. I'm not gonna hold you.
Bro.
Oh, fellas.
50 songs.
I'm gonna get to it.
Fellas.
That was a bad album.
Fellas.
Bro.
Was it bad or was it long? Pause.
Hey, yo.
Definitely got to watch his mouth.
Isn't that his longest project? Like, pause. Isn't that like 30, 40
Yeah,
tracks?
but
like
that means
tracks?
that means it saturates it and it takes down the quality of it. So it means it's not.
Scorpion was 24 tracks, I believe.
Yeah, what? Like he did
Really? It felt longer than that. I was like, damn.
That's
But
24. It's 25.
Bro, Ratchet Happy Birthday is probably the worst song I've ever heard.
But Johns be liking that John though.
If they only like it on their birthday, doesn't count. Like, but just to be real, if we're being.
But yo, he has smashes. He got Nice for What? He got God's Plan. Come on.
But if we're being honest, look, the reason why I brought us together with talking about Views.
Similar album to Views, if you think about it, in terms of smash hits, in terms of length, pause, in terms of just kind of where he was at in his career, like Views, he came off the Meek beef where people were questioning his pen. Pause again, and then the push situation where his pen was questioned, his child, all that. Like Views and Scorpion are very similar in their structure, in their output, in the range of music.
I also think he set up Views like that because at that point people realized they could trick the streaming game and include smash singles on the album and it'll count towards the album. So Migos did the same thing in Culture too. So that's the reason why he put mad old shit we already heard on the same shit and it just increased the length. Because if we took off the shit that we already heard, it would drop by like 15, 25%.
Yo, Jacques, I was telling them earlier before you pulled up, I feel like the whole reason why we all look at Scorpion the way we look at it is because of like, the album just feels like an entire response to Push, right?
Yeah.
So every
was a
time
weird-
I listen to that album, I can't even just listen to the music.
But it also was a moment in time like my time really slapped because that nigga was talking about individuals. I was like, oh, this nigga, hey, and Drake not gangster, like we know that, but my time still slapped. Like
I was a Dykeman at the hoop game. That used to come. There's some game changing music.
Like yo, that's like yo, I'm really sick of these niggas. Like yo, he really went crazy.
Yeah, he did. He definitely went crazy.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, man, fellas. Again, like I said, the great thing about these types of discussions is they can expand into so many different things. Like,
Yeah.
we took it from Views to Meek to Hove to Kendrick to Cole. I wish Jacques could have been here longer to provide more of his opinion, but thank you for pulling up late, sharing your take. Like, all of y'all, thank y'all for pulling up. This is, I don't have a name for this yet. This is just, we're gonna be talking albums during quarantine. We're gonna be talking artist impact. And yeah, so thank y'all for joining up, man. And let's we can close off here.
All right, my boy.
All right,
I'll
folks.